Hello, my monstrosities. Hello once again. Today I bring to you not an Imperial Knights video, but them as allies. Yes, with them seeing price points reductions out the wazoo, everybody wants to know where the Imperial Knights will go. So, I'm here to tell you that GW made a mistake again, and it might actually be pretty decent. Maybe. We'll see. But remember when Halo's Creed Battleclade had the clause that one or more units from your army, they didn't really have this add mech part here? Surely GW would not make that mistake again. Even though it wasn't really abused for that 2 or 3 weeks, I guess, where you could have had Canis at toughness 13, we didn't really see too much of that. However, I've come to find out that, well, Astra Militarum Siege Regiment is full of loopholes and, I guess not loopholes, but interesting interactions. So, Siege Regiment has the artillery support detachment rule. Creep and Barrage. Roll 1d6 for each enemy unit that is more than a foot from every model of your army away on the battlefield. 5 up, they're shaken, which means they have -2 to move, -2 to charges. Depends on the battle size. For Strike Force, we're looking at 3. Incendiary Bombardment. Select up to 3 Strike Force every that are more than a foot away from every model of your battlefield. Yada yada yada. Whoop the bam. While they become scattered. While a unit is scattered, can't have the benefit of cover. Cool. Smoke sales. Select the number of units from your army. Until the end of the battle round, those units have stealth. Alright, doesn't say how many units, but we're just going to be nice and assume that they also want you to refer to the table below, so let's say 3. It doesn't say Astra Militarum units, so now we're right back to step 1, where, yeah, Warglaves that you have for a little bit of melee and Astra Militarum can have stealth. Canis Rex can have stealth. And even a Knight Castellan, one of the 2 remaining that have T12, can have stealth. Now, you might feel like, I don't really need the Warglaive that bad. Canis is a staple. The essentially free tank shock is nice, right? But also, why would you go with the Castellan? Look at all those blast weapons. It's kind of hard to manage that with things on the field. If anything touches, it gets shut off, right? Here's the thing. With Siege Regiment, it gets a little bit goofier. Callous Sacrifice. Your shooting phase, 1 platoon unit from your army that is within engagement range of 1 or more enemy units. Until the end of the phase, enemy units are not considered to be within engagement range of your unit for the purposes of selecting targets of ranged weapons. Until the end of the phase, each time an enemy model loses a wound, while that model's unit is within engagement range of your unit, roll 1d6. On a 4 up, 1 model from your unit is destroyed after the attacking unit has finished making its attacks. Cool. That means when you're not within engagement range, you can shoot into them, including with blast weapons. So that's the good one of those rules. And while we're talking about just funny things you can do here, Flare Burst, 1 command point, your shooting phase, as a Militarum character unit from your army. When it shoots, if it's within a foot and visible to the target, reroll the hit. This extends even to Lehman Russ commanders and Rogel Dorn commanders. Just weird things going on in this detachment. So, my shout for taking some night shit, especially Canis Rex with his blast sustained hits 1 crits on 5s, or Knight Castellan 395 blast, 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 blast. I hope they're ready for some blast. Siege Regiment build could actually have some play. And, taking it a little bit further, what if you're using the Death Corps of Krieg as your platoon of choice? Well, with Grim Demeanor, each time a model in this unit makes an attack, add 1 to the hit roll if this unit is below its starting strength, and 1 to the wound roll as well if this unit is below half strength. You also have the Death Corps Medipack. At the start of your command phase, if the bear's unit is below its starting strength, you can return up to D3 destroyed Death Corps troopers to this unit. If this unit contains 2 models equipped with a Death Corps Medipack, return up to D3 plus 1 instead. So, that means, while you're tying people up with Death Corps of Krieg, and then firing on them with Knight Castellans, with Callous Sacrifice, you're probably getting your Deathcore Creed below starting strength, turning on their +1 to hit, and possibly even turning on their +1 to wound. So, it's even better because Callous Sacrifice says until the end of the phase, enemy units are not considered to be within engagement range of your unit. So it doesn't just stop at using the Knight Castellan. The Death Corps of Krieg can fire its entire arsenal into that unit as well. If we're reading as it goes. So that's pretty darn good. Now let's talk a little bit more on everything too. Probably, maybe Death Corps Krieg Command Squad, just to give them some more things. Admittedly, at first I had this up here for Alchemic Counter Agents. The Bears unit has a 6-up Feel No Pain against mortals, because I figured it was like the other ones where um, the other rules where you take mortals, but no, you just straight up kill models. This would be even better if that wasn't the case, but you also have Grim Determination. While this unit contains an officer, you can target this unit with stratagems, even if their battle shock and orders don't cease to fall off if you become battle shocked. When you're losing models, you will take battle shock tests and you will probably fail a few. So just nice to have this attached too. Acadian shock troops. It's not always about the Krieg, even though those are the ones that I prefer looking at. Acadian shock troops, they can sticky. It might be nice just to put them even further so you don't have to just sit there fighting over objectives. Pretty nice 120 for 20. Hellhounds. So you notice how in Siege Regiment, Incendiary and Bombardment means you can strip cover? Yeah, that just means your opponent can't get that cover. So AP3 going into a target stays AP3. Or in the Knight Castellan's case, with a 72-inch gun, re-rolling damage rolls of 1 for monsters and vehicles. A Volcano Lance going into something, D3 hitting on 3, strength 18, AP5, D6 plus 8 means that they're probably going to take the full force of that AP5 if that's what you want to go for. But also, going back to that, you could just continuously make your knight stealth, and the Hellhound can be the one stripping the benefit of cover from things. Flesh them out in your shooting phase after this model has shot. Select one enemy unit that was hit by one or more of those attacks. Until the start of your next shooting phase, that unit is scattered. While a unit is scattered, can't have the benefit of cover. 125 points. Now, let's talk a bit about the overall theming of this detachment. Everybody heard it was the artillery detachment and got a little bit scared, and I was like, woo! And then we saw the rules, and while everybody was like, yay, I was like, oh, that's not as fun, I think. But, it's really thematic, and I do still like it as a non-guard player, so I think it's pretty neat, but it just wasn't quite what I expected, and I'm glad in a way that it isn't. That was just my initial reaction. Now, I can appreciate that they still went with additional artillery instead of just buffing indirect fire artillery things. So let's talk about those and what you can do. Starting with the Basilisk, yeah, if you just make this detachment debuffs galore, I think some funny shit could happen. Only really using platoon models, Death Corps of Krieg for whatever random little objective mission play you need. Uh, of course, outside of some shit deep striking you might need in the corner. You know what I mean. But yeah, Death Corps of Krieg, this is essentially their detachment, right? It's trench warfare, trench artillery warfare for the most part. Death Corps Krieg just to do the thing with Knight Castellan. Basilisk, making it so that Earthshaker rounds in your shooting phase after the smallest shot. If one or more of those attacks made with its Earthshaker cannon scored a hit against an enemy infantry unit until the start of your next shooting phase, it's shaken. Same thing we saw before. Make it so that they're -2 to move and -2 to charge. uh, just control the battlefield with platoon, basilisk firing for 140. Wyverns in your shooting phase after this model has shot. Select one enemy unit hit by one or more of those attacks by the Wyvern quad, storm, shard, mortar. If they're hit, they're suppressed. While a unit is suppressed, each time a model in that unit makes an attack, subtract one from the hit roll until the start of your next shooting phase. Again, just drop shit, and if you actually need some heavy duty, let a knight do it, right? Just go about it that way. You also have the Manticore. In your shooting phase, after smallest shot, one enemy unit that's not a monster or vehicle hit by the model Storm Eagle rockets. They become staggered. If they're staggered, -1 to the OC. This is nice. The Storm Eagle rockets are anti-infantry, 2-up, blast, indirect fire, D6 attacks, 120. So, like, this is nice if you want to strip cover for something and then put the AP2 to pick up, D6 blast. It's cool, whichever. But also, just saying, if you remove engagement range shenanigans, even if you don't kill the unit, you are probably going to flip the objective with your platoon having more OC 9 times out of 10 than whatever got hit by the Manticore on the objective with it as well. And finally, artillery team. In your shooting phase, after the small has shot, if one or more of those attacks made with an indirect fire weapon scored a hit against an enemy unit, that unit must take a battle shock test. If an infantry unit is hit by one or more of those attacks made by a multiple rocket launcher, they must subtract 1 from their battle shock test when doing so. 95 points. Again, just get some more shit onto people and debuffs. I think that this actually has a lot of play, and I'm surprised I haven't heard more about Siege Regiment. Just it's different. It's kind of, to me, now that I've actually read the shit, it reads to me a bit like what I was saying with Cult of Blood and some of those, or Dread Mob, Cult of Blood, where you can have big unit, and I'm not just talking about Canis, but follow me here. In those two detachments, you have possibly a big unit, a Stompa, Gorkanaut, Morkanaut, the Corn Lord of Skulls, Demon Princes, not as big, but you know what I'm saying. And then a bunch of little shit. Goremongers, Jackals, and Gretchen, right? To fill in the points to just do shit while you have one just big beater. Siege Regiment looks like you can do the same. And again, taken away from the Titanic thing that we're talking about in this video, if you just have artillery, shit, doing shit, which I think is the flavor they were going for here, because those will probably be a foot away from your opponent, right? Strip their cover, make it so that it's harder for your opponent to engage into your shit. Have stealth for your other shit, right? Indirect fire, so they probably don't have an angle on you. Give your Krieg or again your platoon stealth. That'd be pretty nice. Siege Regiment looks a little bit better than I think anybody's given it credit for. I saw like one result for it in the time since the Codex, and I'd like to see more people try it out. And possibly now that Imperial Knights are cheaper, you do it with something like Castellan or Rex. And again, you could do it with Warglaive just for some melee potential, but I don't know, I think enough indirect fire and just playing the game, you don't really need it too much. But if a Bloodthirster or Scarbrand, Chaos Knight Rampager, whatever other big melee threat runs into your brick of Krieg, what the fuck do you do besides just laugh at them, right? I think that's, and then again, get +1 to hit, +1 to wound, so even that gets more dangerous for your opponent. I think Siege Regiment is probably a little bit more fun than first read. Is it more powerful than the other shit like Combined Arms or Hammer? I don't know. I don't play enough guard stuff or against guard stuff to really know how deep the rabbit hole goes, but or the trench hole, how the foxhole. Fuck it, I'm dropping the analogy or the play, but I think not analogy. What am I? You get it. We're wrapping this up. It's off the rails. I need to shut up. Yeah, consider it today. So hey, if you like the video, like it, got a comment for me, comment. And until next time, peace out, my monstrosities.